Welcome to the Customer First Show, putting customers at the heart of your business.
Good afternoon, welcome to the latest episode of the Customer First Show. Today, I'm really pleased to have a well-travelled, well-experienced customer experience professional with me. Would you like to introduce yourself, Caroline?
Hi, yes, my name is Carolene Meli. I am an experience strategist, so I'm helping businesses really create exceptional experiences for their employee and their guests and their customers. And like you mentioned, I'm a full-time traveler, so I'm currently based out of Montenegro, but that could very easily change as we move into 2021. Super happy to be here. Really excited about this, actually.
Great. And I've never been to Montenegro, but obviously I think a lot of people know it from the James Bond film Casino Royale. Is it a beautiful place to be?
Yes. Oh my gosh. The landscape is incredible. And people comment on how amazing my photography skills are on Instagram. And I have to say, listen, I just press the button. I don't do anything. The landscape here is absolutely incredible. So yeah, it's a great place to kind of be inspired by on a daily basis.
So Caroline, you've travelled quite a lot around the world. I note that you came, some of your work was originally out in Australia. The accent says you're from that part of the world. Tell me a little bit about what you've been up to and how you've got to your current position.
Yeah, so you are correct. Sometimes I'm wondering if my Australian accent is still strong or not, but I guess according to you it is. I did grow up in Australia, and I traveled from a very early age. Both my parents were not from Australia, so we were constantly traveling. And I started off really in hospitality, like a lot of young kids do when they're finishing up schooling. And I worked many different hospitality jobs, and I actually ended up beginning a career with Cirque du Soleil when they actually came to town one year, and I was able to work in the bars for them in their temporary setup. And that began a 10 plus year love affair with Cirque du Soleil, where I got to travel all over the world and work in their front of house operations. And in and amongst that, I also ran the entertainment department on a cruise ship. I worked on a lot of entrepreneurial ventures. I dipped into retail a little bit with Lululemon Athletica and really found the power of building an incredible community around a brand, not just from a retail point of view. And then all the way up until now, where I'm working on leadership projects, I'm working on one-on-one consulting with businesses. So it's been a very eclectic journey up until now, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, and it's that Lululemon, which is, I guess, where sort of your CX career started. And the thing I was quite interested in is that you got the opportunity to help them develop and open new stores. How was that? What did you learn there from your early start of your career?
Yeah, so when I first was introduced to Lululemon, I didn't like retail at all. And I said, there's no way I'm ever working a retail job. Absolutely not. And what I realized very early on with that company is the focus on the employees and how they grow and develop with or without Lululemon, as well as a really different take on the way that they address customer experience, really introduced me to this whole new world of thinking and really challenged me from different ways of traditional customer service where I'd kind of grown up in as a young 20-year-old. And it was really interesting to see how this power of these are not our customers, and we were not actually even allowed to use the word customer. We always had to say guest, and that has stayed with me till now. But these are our guests. We are welcoming them into our home, which is our store. And how are we going to bring them into our community and help them fall in love, not just with a pair of Lululemon leggings, but with the brand and everything that we stand for as a community. So it was such an incredibly eye-opening experience of how you can really empower your employees and then train them in a way where they are not just looking at each person walking in the store as just a number, as just a dollar sign, as somebody who's going to purchase something, but as a potential invitee member of this community that you are trying to build around the brand.
That's great. That's really good learning experiences. And then you went to work for a company who I think deliver a very particular experience and a very special experience. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that? What you learned there, and how that sort of again set you up for where you are now?
Yeah, and when I think of my Cirque du Soleil career, I would not be who I am today with that entire experience. I started quite young there, and so I learned a lot about leadership. And it wasn't just a job that I went to every day. I lived on tour. So I lived with the people that I worked with, and we traveled together, and we did everything together as a community. So it was an incredible environment to grow up as an up and coming leader or manager in this world of customer experience. And what was very interesting about that style of customer experience is we were offering the same product as in the show that I was working on, and I changed shows a number of times, but we were offering the same product, but we were moving to different either cities or countries. So, I worked in over 17 countries and over 50 cities around the world. And it was an incredible learning experience to say, okay, this is our product. How are we going to roll it out in, let's say, Australia compared to when we go to Paris, France? And it's actually very, very different because you have a complete different dynamic of guests. And so I learned very early on, and almost like a slap in the face, that some things that I implemented as a manager in one place completely failed in the next place. And it was such a huge ego hit for me because, I thought that I had created an incredible incentive or an incredible initiative or a new element to how we rolled out our experience. And then I would get to the next place and it wouldn't work at all. So it was this real mesh between, okay, what is the culture that I'm going into? What is the behavior of the customers that I'm working with? And then how am I intertwining that into the brand integrity of Cirque du Soleil? And that was always the challenge, but I think that's what made it so exciting and why I feel that I now have the expertise that I do in customer service, customer experience.
That's great. And we could create a little formula about that. But certainly one of the things I read in your bio, which really interested me, and you've just highlighted that, which was, you had to specialize in that guest experience to make sure every guest leaves your show amazed by each moment of the experience. And, as you've just said, it's not necessarily a one size fits all. You had to think very deeply about local cultures, is what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Language is another example, even for our staff. So we hired our staff locally. So wherever we were in the world, we would hire 100 to 150 people to work for us in the front of house. And me, I particularly specialized towards the end in the VIP experience, but they had to speak some level of English. A lot of the times, I'm pretty sure the interview question was, do you speak English? And the answer was yes. And that was the only kind of parameter. So sometimes it was very challenging. But again, sometimes actually, when I was in Moscow, Russia, I had a translator with me the whole time. And so being able to communicate with my team was very, very difficult because I had this extra level of language barrier on top. But exactly what you were saying, there was this level of, okay, how do things work here in this culture? Are the guests generally quite late? Are they quite orderly and organized? Are they going to kick off and make a big deal about nothing? So there's so many different, also like, is the energy going to be, there's some places that I went to, the energy in my VIP lounge was crazy. It was like so energetic and bubbly and just this really intense energy. Other places, other countries, so reserved, like a library. Like you could almost, like sometimes I would turn the microphone down a little bit when I was doing the announcements because it was such a different environment. So it was really, the key really for me was being aware, not going into a new place and saying, well, hey, this is how we do it. They have to kind of fall in line. No, you are going to a new place and you want them to come into your community and buy your products and come and experience the show. So how are you going to attract them in a way that's going to be conducive to their current environment, right? And so, changing, and not even country to country, city to city is very different. You're from the UK. UK cities are incredibly different in all aspects. So some things that you're going to do in London, in London we play at the Royal Albert Hall. It's not the same thing that you're going to do when you go up to Manchester. So it's very interesting. And the key really is awareness and just really watching and learning from your local staff. And I think it's something as managers that we don't do enough of, is really ask questions to our staff that are actually from that place or intertwined in that community. So that was key for me there.
Yeah, and I like that. And you sort of walk straight into my next question, because as a manager, it's very different to being an employee. You talk very much there about tailoring and customizing your customer experiences for your customers, so your customers had a good time and they enjoyed it. But then as a manager, again, one of the things you wrote in your bio was that your goal was for every staff member to leave having learned skills that have pushed them further. And as a manager, you have to, I guess, understand how every staff member can contribute, what skills they have, and I guess what they want as well. Because again, there's not one size fits all there. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely. And that really became apparent to me in my early days at Lululemon, where I remember doing a goal setting activity. And at the time, none of my goals really were within Lululemon. And the managers around me were like, we don't care what your goals are. We just want you to have ambitious goals and we want to help you get there. And it really took me back as an employee. I was like, wow, like these people actually care about my growth and development, whether that means I will leave the company later in 10 years or in the next year. It's not their focus. Their focus is creating an environment of empowerment and development. And we fed off that really, really, really easily. And so then when I started to manage groups of people, especially in different countries, and I was only with them for a very short period of time. So I was with them 6 to 8 weeks, right? At Cirque du Soleil when we were touring. And so I knew that they were going to have an incredible experience and be able to put Cirque du Soleil on their resume. And from a experience, from a brand point of view, of course, it was an incredible experience for the most part, for the majority of people. But I wanted them to also remember the time they had, for example, with me and my team and what they learned. And so I focused a lot on leadership skills. I focused a lot on thinking in the moment and trusting my employees to implement things. Again, a lot of times I felt that they were the experts because they were from that place. So we created an incredible environment of them constantly bringing up ideas and me, obviously some were better than others, but I really made a point of actually trying a lot of things out. And Cirque du Soleil was such a playground for that because we had new guests for the most part every night. So if we tried something one night, and these are not big changes, but they're small changes that create impact in the experience. They create a defining moment for the guest. If we tried something and it didn't really work or it didn't flow properly, it's fine. We just tried something else the next night, and we were constantly able to play around a little bit because for the most part, the thousands of guests that were coming each night were different every night. So we had that opportunity. So yeah.
But then how did that change when you're onto the cruise ship? Because I guess you've now got guests who stayed with you for a longer period of time. How did that thinking or approach change for that then?
Yeah, the cruise ship was really interesting. As I went into that role, I knew nothing about cruise ships, and it was the passengers were 95% British passengers, and I didn't have a lot of experience working in the UK from a guest experience point of view. So that was a really interesting experience for me. And what the biggest takeaway that I really had from that experience was, yes, you had about for the most part, 1 week up to 2 weeks with these passengers. And I found the most impact I created was when I actually got to have conversations with the passengers and learn about the experience that they were having on the ship. Some of them, it was their 100th cruise, and they were celebrating an anniversary, or it was the first time they'd ever been away with their family, or so many different elements. And I felt, as the leader of the entertainment team, if I could actually understand them, and I did have the luxury of time where I actually got to converse with them and check in with them and see them, on the decks every now and then, I was able to form a meaningful connection with a lot of them. And then that resulted in me being a little bit more in tune with how I was going to adjust the experience. And that was huge for me. So many simple things, especially, the perfect example is if you work in hospitality, knowing that it's somebody's birthday or anniversary or one of those milestones, you're easily able to go and bring them a little something to their table. But you're not going to know that unless you listen and potentially ask a lot of questions. So that's what I tried to do on the cruise ship. Ask lots of questions, and then surprise and delight these passengers wherever I could and wherever my team could as well.
Okay, Great, and I just like that little comment you made, the surprise and delight. I think it's a great thing to do. So be brave there. Ask for customer feedback. Another thing people are scared of doing. But in all of these conversations, I guess these businesses are very reliant on the teams, the staff who are working and delivering that experience. You know, as a senior, you could create great strategies, have great meetings, but it was your team that delivered those. And do you want to just tell us a little bit about how you go about setting up a team, or how you go about ensuring that your employees can deeply understand, you know, that vision and passion that you have to, you know, deliver that experience?
Yeah, the link between employee experience and guest experience for me really actually was inspired when I have that as a focus in my work. It's actually been inspired by my traveling. So I've traveled all over the world. Now, for the most part, I travel within the Mediterranean. It's the region that I love, and I'm constantly experiencing new things, right? Whether it's a restaurant, grabbing a coffee, whether it's maybe doing an official kind of more tour point of view. Now is obviously very different, being a lot more stationary and not moving around as much. But what I realized in all of those experiences is I'm interacting mainly with seasonal staff, right? If you think about it, if you're traveling, especially in Europe, a lot of the times you're going to have seasonal staff, whether it's winter or summer. And what I realized by observing and by having terrible experiences and by having amazing experiences was, if you as the business owner or the manager or the CEO of this experience, you can have the most incredible vision about what you want your experience to be, about how you want your guests to feel. But if your staff cannot deliver on that vision, if they are not bought into the vision, and if they cannot execute on it, you will never, ever get there. And I have seen that so many times, especially in this region of the world where I'm at right now, in the Baltics, and really seeing that if there doesn't seem to be an employee culture here, and a focus on, wow, let's really empower our employees. And you see that through the service that they provide. And so that's really where that link formed for me when I'm traveling. And even think about an example where the experience itself is pretty average, but you had that one staff member that was incredible, almost to the point where you want to hire them, right? You want to get their information and bring them into your team. And even though the experience itself was okay, not so great, you are going to remember the experience that you had with that staff member, and you are going to positively associate those two elements. And so it is so, so important, and something that is so often overlooked. We sometimes, for our teams, it's just about, okay, let's just teach them the tasks. They need to know these top 10 tasks for them to be able to do their job. But you could have somebody executing on the tasks to an incredible level, but if they do not feel part of something, if they do not feel that they're learning and developing, if they do not feel that they have aspirations that you really support and that you know about, I mean, you're just never going to get anywhere with that experience, and your customer service is really going to be affected as a result. So that's really, for me, where that link between the two exists, and where I have seen it almost on a daily basis in all of my travels.
And then you've talked there about effectively the culture, right? You know, the culture of your organization, and the culture and the brand come together, don't they? Because you know, if let's pick a brand like Red Bull, okay? Red Bull, high energy, you know, they're involved in the Red Bull games, the BMXs, the airplane dog fights and all this kind of stuff, you know. And when I mean the dog fights, I mean the airplane fights, not animals. So Red Bull as a brand, you know, that's what it stands for. And they have to employ people, and they have to behave. You have to employ people who display those behaviors which fit into the brand. And that's what delivers the experience, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, Red Bull is such a strong brand. You know, it's an iconic brand. It's a worldwide brand. Everybody knows it. And so your employees have to live up to that, the expectation, and that there is a huge, if I am consuming, not necessarily consuming the beverage, but like you said, if I'm going to a Red Bull event, I already have a preconceived idea about what that experience is going to be because of all the elements that you just mentioned. And so Cirque du Soleil is the same thing. Every guest going to a Cirque du Soleil show knows what's going to happen when they sit down in their seat and this incredible show is going to unfold before them. So if they go and sit in their seat and they have this incredible show, but then every single staff member along the way totally sucked, they were just unengaged, they weren't energized, they weren't enthusiastic. I mean, think about that experience as a whole. And, you know, really that idea of, when you're looking at the brand, it's not just about that one made event at Cirque du Soleil. It's not just about the show for 1.5 hours that they're sitting there. It's every single element that happens before and after that is going to accumulate, and that's actually going to create the moment as a whole.
Look, with all this experience and you know, the stuff you've been through, it's no surprise, I guess, that you look at helping people to create those experiences, and you focus a lot on employees and guests. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about the experience that you create. And that's really where I want to focus. You know, if you are going into, especially now, it's very virtual, right? So you're onboarding with a team, maybe all virtual, and you're meeting them over Zoom, as opposed to walking into an office or walking into an event space or something like that. So how can we create exceptional experiences for our employees? Because if we can do that, then naturally there will be this beautiful kind of overflow into the experience that then they provide, not only the guests, but also their other teammates. So when I'm working with businesses, I like to kind of look at both aspects and really, really focus on, do you understand the journey of your guest, your customer? Do you deeply understand how they got to the point where they're interacting with you, and then how you are going to help them fall in love with your brand? But then how is your employee experience really elevating that? How is that contributing to what you're offering your guests? So I like that kind of like intertwining of the two worlds to make the experience incredible.
Yeah, that's a really important moment that matters, and particularly right now, you know, we're still in COVID. A lot of hospitality businesses need to try and find some of those moments which are important and stay memorable. So Caroline, we could talk for a lot longer, but I think it's important now just to share where people can get more information about what you do. I know you do a weekly newsletter, but I was particularly interested in your vlog, your YouTube series.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so it's called The Experience Creators. I've just started it. I'm on episode 5 right now. And I created it because I was having so many incredible conversations with experienced creators all over the world, from personal branding to building incredible communities around a brand, to actually people in the entertainment space that are actually creating physical experiences for you to go through. And the conversations were so rich. They were so full of insight and value, especially right now in the time that we live in, moving into 2021, that I thought these conversations are way too good to be offline, you know, just a casual phone call. I need to transform this into something. And so that The Experience Creators was born after that. So once a week, I have a new interview that goes live on YouTube. You can just search The Experience Creators on YouTube. And the idea is really to bring magic back to experiences. You know, 2020, there's been a lot of isolation, a lot of polarity, a lot of negativity, a lot of stress, etc., etc. You could go on with as many words as possible. So I wanted that idea of, we can create the most magical experiences with not a lot of tools at our disposal, or if we have a lot of restrictions placed on us. And that's what The Experiences Creators is about. It's about bringing that magic back into experiences, and putting a focus on, if you just put a little bit of attention to detail, thoughtfulness, authenticity, a little bit of connection element into the experience that you're providing, you can create something that will be incredibly memorable and impactful for the guest. So that's what that channel is all about. I am so in love with it. Every time I do an interview, a conversation, I get off the call like, that was amazing. And I just love creating that content. And I hope that helps people transform the experience that they're giving, no matter what it is. So The Experience Creators on YouTube.
Okay, so we'll put the links in the video, but that's been really good talking to you today. But I'd like to wrap up with your last thoughts. So 2021 coming up ahead. It's been a tough 2020. Things have changed, things have evolved. Tell me one thing that you'll be telling your clients to really focus on in 2021.
I think for 2021, if that customers will want to feel, they already do, but I think we are at a new level of that you care about them, right? There's so many people that are struggling right now, especially mentally. And if you can add a level in your customer service where you really show that you actually care about somebody and not just about their wallet, that you actually want to help them, that you actually want to create some kind of impact in their lives, I think you'll be able to create such a stronger connection. And when I'm working with clients, the very first question, when I'm looking specifically at the journey of their guests through their experience, the first question I ask them is, how do you want your guest to feel once they've left your experience? And sometimes people are very much taken aback. They haven't thought about that before. How do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel inspired? Do you want them to feel relieved? Do you want them to feel excited? Whatever those emotive words are, writing them down and actually having them visible. I have them visible for the clients that I work with, how I want them to feel. So if we can bring a lot more kind of emotion back into the experience that we're creating and really create that connection and show our guests that we do care about them more than the products that they're buying from us or the experience that they're coming on, then I think we're going to be able to really create something pretty magical. And that's what I'm most excited about moving into 2021.
Yeah, I like that. Well, look, thank you very much for your time, and we hope to hear and see more from you in 2021.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. Thank you for having me on.
You're most welcome. Thank you.